He came back after a while with tickets in his hand, sitting again next to Tay. He didn't say anything. Neither Tay asked. Both kept seated there, waited for the train. An hour passed, and the sound of train could be heard now. He stood up and went to the nearby canteen to bring something for Tay, taking a bottle of water and some snacks. He walked back to Tay, who was seated, still looking down at his hands. The train is coming, he said, and Tay stood up while he took his bag in his hand and went near the train. As the train arrived, he checked for his seats and went inside the train, holding his hand in his. Both took seats together silently and waited for the train to move. Passing the bottle of water to Tay, he turned to him, who held the water, and drank from it. Both didn't eat anything since the morning, but it seems like their food had been gone away. Their heart was filled with grief and sorrow, but still for Tay, he got up and went down to the train to bring something for Tay which could fill his stomach. He took the food from a place stop and went back to the train where Tay was waiting for him. "Where have you gone?" as he asked, and took a seat next to him. He asked worriedly, "Here, eat this. You must be hungry." "Give them the food to him," he said, but he shook his head in a no. "Come on, have this. We can't fight our lives on an empty stomach," he said, and they took it, but didn't eat. The train started to move, and he looked out of the station. For the last time, maybe tried to hide the tears from Tay. This train was going to take them far from them, who broke their hearts and souls, wiping their tears. He looked away and rested his head to the seat and closed his eyes. Then, the train was going on, the day turned to the night, and the moon was shining on the sky, and both of them were seated, lost in thoughts. The tears died in their eyes, but heart had burned, which was so heavy that they could not feel a second of relief. The eyes turned to him, who had his eyes closed. The eyes closed on, and head went to him, the shoulder, who was his compassion in the long journey of life. Jungkook. He opened his eyes and looked at Tay, who was sleeping peacefully, placing his head on his shoulder. A new sun rised, a new wave were waiting for them. Then, he called Tay, who moved on his voice, and looked up at him. Both of their eyes were met, and Tay immediately moved back from his shoulder, felt embarrassed. "You want something to eat?" he asked, but Tay shook his head as no. But he got up and was thinking to bring something to eat from the train canteen, but Tay held the slave and looked at him and scared. "Where are you going?" Tay asked. "I'm just coming. Don't be scared. Miss don't Tay hold his cup," he said, and went ahead. After a few minutes, he returned with 2 cups of coffee and some food in his hand. Passing him the cup of coffee, he took a seat again and looked at the passing view. Both silently had their breakfast and waited for the destination to come. His mind went back to the night when he returned from a gathering of their friends. A new morning. He lost everything. Flashback. Looking so handsome as he was getting ready to meet his friend, who had arrived a little get together on the return from abroad. Insus entered the room and ran his finger on his shoulder. "Leave me alone." Closing his button of the cuffs, he said, and he looked at him in the mirror. "Why so much attitude, huh? You know, you have to come to me. After all, I'm your fiancé, and I'll be waiting for you for years." Standing in front of him, Insu said, and ran his finger through his button. "Stop this rubbish. I'm not going to marry you. I've told my mom," he said, pushing Insu's hand with his shirt. "Your father had made the decision for our marriage, and I know you can't say no to him," he said, and pushing that wrapped around his arms around him, the shoulder moving much closer. "I miss you so much. How badly I want you, Jungkook," he said, closing his eyes and struggling his face in his neck, and the lips touched his neck. He pushed him back and slapped Insu hard on his face. Thank God. I didn't make a mistake into recognizing you. So, shame on you. No one can force me to marry you because I never wanted it, he said angrily and looking at her, who was shocked on the slap he received. Jungkook. At the same time, Taehyung entered the room calling him. Yes? Bringing a smile on his lips, he turned to him. Your mother is calling you, he said looking at Insu, who turned to the other side and left him there. You got out of my room now, he said while taking the coat to wear. You'll regret it, he said and going in front of him. Shut up and leave. What maybe Taehyung is thinking? What if mom get to know that you were in my room? He said pushing him away. Is now more important? I'm your fiancé and you just slapped me for that desire I have for you. Going in front of him, he said angrily. He's way better than you. You're so ugly from inside. Pushing him back, he said, and left from there. While he looked at the empty room angrily and wiped his tear and left for there. After meeting up from the mother and hug his friend, that taking their blessing, he left from there and meet his friends. His smile burned somewhat hot and his words rang in our ear, burning him more in anger. Jungkook, with his friend, went to the city of the side and enjoyed some places to visit, to roam around, and then at the night, at a restaurant for the dinner, he enjoyed a lot with his friends. And when he returned home, it was almost midnight. Without making any voice, he wanted to his room. He was much tired and wanted to sleep. As he entered the room, he tried to turn off the lights, but it did not, and the light didn't turn. He sighed and freed his feet to the shoes with mobile light, and he poured a glass of water at the side table and drank it as usual. He had a habit of drinking water before going to sleep and lay down on the bed without looking anywhere and turn the light of his mobile off and close his eyes to sleep. The train stopped being out of his thought and he looked at him, who was lost in thought. He felt chilly run in his body and he looked out of the station where the train had stopped. The destination had arrived. Come, he said moving ahead, but stepped out of the train and held his hand in him, while the other hand he was holding the bag, both walking out the station. He looked at there and hired a car and again the journey was started toward the unknown destination they was not aware of. He was taking him, but it was enough that he was with him. There is the situation that he was feeling protected, which his hands were private. They felt safe and secure. The car kept going to while they was looking outside at the unknown wheel, the passing through his side. Suddenly they felt cold and wrapped his coat around his shoulder fully and looked around the area. The car was entering the mountains region. Car was passing with the mountains of the high roads, with the one side of cliff and the other side of the high mountains. They might are losing the city name on the board, which has the word to welcome to arrive in the cool mountain city. Wait, no one can find us ever, he said turning to Tae and gave a nod with the red eyes. The car stopped after a while and both stepped out of the car. After paying the bill, he entered in the office. It was an office of house agents. Mr. John, as Jungkook entered the office. Mr. John, I'm waiting for you. Standing up with a smile, he said. I hope you have found the house for us, said Jungkook while shaking his hand to him. Of course, the house is waiting for you, saying Jungkook took the car keys with him and walked ahead while Taehyung was following him. After a drive of 20 to 30 minutes, the car stopped in front of the house and Mr. Jungkook took them to the big but a beautiful house, unlocked the door. They entered the house was fully furnished. Taehyung walking ahead and sat off the sofa, tried, lost, and senseless while Jungkook paid the commission of the agent. As Jiho left there, Jungkook locked the door and turned to Tae, who was seated lost in their own thought, signing, placing the luggage aside, and walked to him, taking a seat next to Tae. He bowed him, lowering at the head and little. Let a sign escape his mouth, and all in mind were tangled with the incident they were facing now. Thiang. He called it, who silently wiped their tears.